Because I want to know.
Because you seem like a skeptic. So I would, you know, in the true sense of the word. So to me, I'm asking you or something.
So evil Khan, forget God. Forget God.
Well, evil is doing pure harm.
No. What is evil? What is evil? Don't.
I'm answering the question.
To wax?
No. Who's wax?
Do you know wax?
No.
I think what they're driving at, Isaac, is they're asking you what's your foundation in order to say something's right or wrong.
Right. And don't tell me something's wrong without telling me why it's wrong.
Well, listen. I'm not going to allow you to delete the options and my avenues to explain my position.
No, but they're all wrong.
Now, my definition of evil is complete, capricious, unwarranted harm.
But why is that evil?
Hold on onto others for pure self gratification and pleasure. To and for their detriment.
Is that your definition?
Evil. Well, for me, evil is inflicting harm. Inflicting pain, inflicting suffering.
No, you haven't
inflicting suffering.
No, honestly, you haven't solved evil.
You keep on babbling. You keep on babbling and waffling. You're not letting me finish. Are you going to let me finish my point? And then you can comment.
Okay, go.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, and this is a cogent, comprehensive definition, it's inflicting unwarranted harm, unwarranted suffering, unwarranted pain on another without any justifiable or rational cause apart from satisfying some form of subjective pleasure, right? Now, if that for me covers a wide variety of actions. If you inflict harm on somebody, and sometimes we do need to inflict harm on other people for their own good.
Yeah, that won't be evil.
Well, listen, if you've got a cancer here, just above your heart, and we take you to a hospital, and we take a knife and cut it out, we're harming you, right? But we're doing that for your own good, aren't we? Right? To prevent a great...
It's not self-gratification.
Right. To prevent a greater harm, and also, in a longer term, to help you live and survive, right? That is justified harm. If we stick a needle into a baby, right, in order to inject, substances that could help protect it in the future, we're harming the baby for a very short space of time, but in the longer term, we're protecting that baby from greater harm in the future, right? So it's about inflicting pain, suffering, and harm gratuitously without any benefit to the person that is suffering the harm, right? And for your own, subjective, subjective pleasure, right? That, for me, that is evil.
But when you say for me, right, it becomes subjective. Because for me, evil could be something different. Did you see what I mean?
Well, I think I've covered it actually.
No, that's for you. Give me a yardstick.
Okay, so why?
For him, that might not be.
So
I mean.
So why would you?
Words.
You've never.
Words are the problem.
Okay. You've never seen a man before, right? He's just walking along. Never laid eyes on them before.
Yeah.
But
one
you
of them's concrete, one of them's abstract.
Right.
So it's like love. Yeah, it's so. Just because you have a word for something doesn't mean that it actually refers to something within the world. Right? So we're back at the God problem. So as soon as you say love, anything abstract, you're in the realm of you've created a word and you're trying to shoehorn things into that word rather than looking at the world and then naming something.
Okay. Well, that's with love, I'll give you that, because love is just this kind of sort of.
I would say evil and God are the same problem.
Well, love
but if evil exists,
love
that's God.
is genuinely thought as a positive concept, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it exists.
Well, no, well.
But it's a label, isn't it? It's a label for some of the positive feelings.
It's sort of like a foregone conclusion, like, oh, there's this thing, and now I'm going to try and justify
what we're doing
the other way, inductively. I guess that's what you're saying, right?
Sure, but ultimately, we're describing human emotions, right? We're describing human behaviour.
Yeah.
We're giving a kind of a utility, right, to a group of behaviours that we think. In general,
we're trying to sort of categorise.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing? Because you reminded me of something. I don't want to get waylaid because I know you've got an important point to make. So, I studied neuroscience, right? I have a master's in neuroscience, and there's this idea in neuroscience. It's called eliminative materialism, right? And it's just a fancy way. The idea is that just because we have like folk psychological ideas of abstract, this, you know, like trustworthiness or goodness or this and that, doesn't make them actually true. There are plenty of things, like we used to think of demons, right? Demons inhabiting people, and now the way that we conceive of things is through science. So what they're saying, so what these eliminated materialists would say is we're constantly kind of chipping away at our sort of folk psychological, folk metaphysical notions. Yes. Demons, lightning caused by Jupiter, you know, this and that. So even where we're going to get to the point where we don't, what we call love now will eventually be reduced to, I say reduced, but will be disaggregated into a body state, i.e. heightened adrenaline, heightened stress response, you know, these kinds of things. So the reason why I'm saying this is because if you start with an idea and say it's a legit thing, it's the wrong way to go about it. It's better to look at the world, see what's going on in the world, and then say, okay, I'm going to name that thing, rather than starting with the name.
Listen, we are creatures. We are creatures. We're entities that communicate with language. We need a language. You know,
I'm not disputing whether we need language. I'm saying it's wrong to start with an abstraction and try and fit concrete things into it. It's better to label the concrete things that you can.
But we get a general. We have a general idea of what we mean when we say evil, right? The utility of the word is sort of ubiquitous. We know what we. It's not an abstract concept. You could conjure up.
I would claim it is.
Right. Well, no, because for me,
you can't tell me I wouldn't claim it is. I would claim it is.
That's fair enough. But we're talking about a set of circumstances that are generally very negative for whoever is, you know, on the receiving end.
I don't want to be pedantic, but I would say negative is relative as well. I'm not denying that. Look, if you want to say, let's say this, let's say that for sake of argument, that's fine. But I'm not going to do you the disrespect of saying I agree with something when I don't.
Okay. Well, see, this is why I try and steer clear of philosophy, because.
But we're all doing philosophy.
Well,
science used to be considered natural philosophy.
Well, I try and do rationality, you know.
But that is philosophy. We're talking about epistemology right now.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't want to...
You surprised me. You really surprised me.
No, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go down the kind of pedantic road of, you know...
I think you have to. Sometimes the truth hurts.
No, because you've got to move on to, you know...
Look, that's why I said I'm quite happy to say, for all intents and purposes, this term means this thing, and then we go from there. But like I said, like I keep saying to you, I don't want to do you the disrespect of saying I agree with something if I have my reservations about it.
But okay, well, I'm really happy and comfortable with the word evil. I know what I mean. I think 99% of people would know, you know, what somebody would mean if they describe somebody or something as evil.
Just one more thing. When you were saying to the guy about his God, right? I could as far as if I'm not getting my logic mixed up, I can say to you, well, you say it's his God that developed in the Middle East. I could say, well, that's your evil that developed in your mind. It's just as relative.
No, you wouldn't use evil in that context. That's ridiculous.
I would.
Well, you're a strange fruit.
That's fine. That's fine. Let's say for a second I'm in strange
fruit. We've got to use language. We've got to listen.
Let's say for a second I'm in strange fruit. Does that make me wrong?
No. Well.
Okay.
Well, from a purely sort of philosophical standpoint, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Right, but we've got to use terms that are sort of generically understood by the average man. The average man doesn't have a master's in neuroscience. For God's sake,
he doesn't need to. The very simple point is that you don't want to build on shaky foundations.
No. But I'm not building on shaky foundations.
No, one doesn't want to.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Sorry. But we've got to stick within the bounds of what is deemed to be language that is comprehensible to the average Joe to grasp.
It depends what your end game is.
No, when we're having a conversation like this, right? It's no good going into sort of deep.
This is where we get deep.
Yeah.
Because cool is where we get deep.
The thing is, one has to figure out what one's end game is.
Yeah,
right.
I'm clear about my end game.
So are you trying to introduce doubt in his mind?
Well, of course I am.
Okay, I'm doing the same to you.
All right. Well, doubt in what?
In your mind of
anything. Because as soon as you say you know something 100%, you're just like that person.
I would never say that. I would never say that. I would always take.
So are you saying?
I would always take the scientific approach. I mean,
okay. So you're saying for all practical purposes we need to sort of use this.
Of course, and that is how we do science.
Okay.
I could stand here arguing that you are taller than that tree, or the general concept of what we call tall, higher, right? And I could stand here trying to convince you that you are, in actual fact, as far as I'm concerned, subjectively, you are taller than that tree.
Can I make a distinction? Okay, so when you talk about height,
yes,
height is something that you can actually sort of quantify.
Sure.
The point I was trying to make is that if you start with an abstraction that doesn't have a concrete instantiation, it's not made of something.
Well, it does. That word conjures up.
It conjures up different things in different people's minds.
Well, no. Listen.
That's why it's hard.
You're talking about the word evil.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
abstraction.
Okay. Well. Listen. I wouldn't say it was an abstraction. When you hear the word evil, do you generally think, well, fluffy.
I know the direction
fluffy baby rabbits being cuddled by a toddler.
So you're saying it's the word, the definition, the substance is somehow lacking and not absolute.
I would say as soon as you. I was talking to him about eliminated materialism, which is basically a fancy way of saying, look, there are sort of abstractions that we have all the time. Like we used to think that people were possessed by demons, and then with knowledge we understood kind of medical reasons and stuff like that, and then that abstraction sort of disappeared. So I'm saying, could there not be things now that we consider to be actual tangible things that will one day be considered, that was very hazy and fuzzy and all the rest
of it. One applies the word to. But the word is a negative word.
Exactly.
It's bad things. What it's applied to change and morph over time.
Exactly.
And throughout culture.
Sure.
But the word itself is still the same.
Exactly. Sure. It conjures the ubiquity of the word.
I wouldn't dispute the ubiquity of the word, no.
Right. So
whether it refers to something that we can have a comprehensive definition of, I don't know.
Right. So, for the sake of the English language, that word evil, I mean, in other languages, I don't know, maybe,
But I think if you try and prove something without having a comprehensive definition of it, we're back to the God problem. If you don't know what God is, how can you say you believe in it?
Well, listen, I'm not going to go down the route of being... I'm comfortable, very comfortable, with using the word evil to connotate actions that are extremely negative towards, other people or other entities.
Perceived.
Right.
Yes. Right.
I understand.
So I wouldn't use the word. I don't know. T-shirt. I wouldn't use that word. T-shirt.
T-shirt.
Yeah, T-shirt. Yeah, T-shirt has a specific description meaning, and we know what we're talking about. We are dealing with language.
Lingually, the word has clear definition.
Sure.
Have you got a definition for evil? Would you consider evil the same as bad?
If I didn't want to come across as such a pedantic arsehole, I would go down the Wittgenstein route of you cannot actually define anything. You cannot actually say a table is something because you will always find an exception within your definition. But forget that, right? If you can, I feel the best thing that we can do is say we have a very what's the word? Incomplete definition. Let's say for all intents and purposes it's this and this and this, with the proviso that it's not really a comprehensive definition. A little bit shaky, but let's agree. Another thing, a little bit shaky, let's agree. And then you build on top of those shaky foundations. But you've agreed there's some things you've glossed over.
I'd be perfectly comfortable with using the word evil for a God that would chop your head off because you didn't believe in it, especially when he made you not believe in it.
Or allow a child to be born with childhood cancer.
If I gave you something, what do you think of this? If I said to you, bad equates to evil, and if we were to give something that definition, it's the worst possible misery for everyone. If you accept that as the foundation for bad or evil, then we can build from there. Would you accept that? The worst possible misery for everyone.
I would accept the definition of what you're. I get what you're trying to say, but different people think that this is good for someone, this is bad for someone. But in the long run, if we kill X number of people, that would be good in total.
He has just cut.
But would you agree that every human on the planet, if I said to them, the worst possible misery for everybody is what we would define as bad, and we can move up from there? Because remember, we can always say things are bad. We don't always know what the best is. So if we start with the foundation of the worst possible misery, his definition might be different to mine, but the definition, the worst possible misery, is a foundation to start with. Then you can move up, because otherwise you're floundering. You're right. Start with something and then move from there.
I really don't want to see.
I think Sam Harris
really
sort of.
That's the one. The moral landscape. I adhere to that.
I really don't want to seem difficult, but I think by saying every time you say something, you simply defer the problem. Evil is worse. Worst. What does worst mean? Worst is bad. What does bad mean? Bad means
not
good for people.
The worst possible misery for everybody.
You constantly defer the problem.
No, we've got to have a foundational starting point.
Yes, you do have to have a foundation.
And I've presented one.
Finding that foundation.
I think he's given you a fair foundation.
If the worst possible misery isn't your foundational bad, could anybody do something better? So we're starting with axiomatic foundation.
To me, right, I'm saying I want to understand, and intuitively I understand, but if I reason it out in my mind, I can't fully understand what you mean. Even though I want to say, okay, yeah, that seems like if I think about it a little bit, I feel like I'm fooling myself.
I don't see how. The worst possible misery for everyone.
What's worst?
No, I didn't say worst. I said the worst possible misery, as in the definition.
How do you? I understand in concept what you're saying.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Imagine every being that's conscious is tortured to the point of madness continually until they no longer exist. Would you consider that axiomatically bad? Or can you, in principle, think of anything worse than being tortured to the point of madness, every single human being? We've got to start somewhere, so we have to agree. So would you agree that with that, or do you think there's something worse? Because I'm claiming that's the worst. So my definition, my axiomatic.
He knows exactly what I mean.
That's the worst. Now you might go, oh, I'm not sure that's the worst.
Yes, you can.
And I'm claiming. I'm claiming you can't.
Well, I kind of agree with both. Well, obviously I sympathise with you, but theoretically and philosophically, you could go on infinitum with that.
No, well, you can't, because that's what we want to get to bedrock, isn't it? So if we use the word the worst possible misery for everybody, and we define that as torturing, because death is much easier. Would you agree? Everybody would agree that if you die, that's a lot easier than being tortured to death. So imagine the worst possible misery.
Yeah, you look really.
And we start with that. Now, if this gentleman says, you know what, I don't think that's the worst misery for everybody, then I want to know from him what could be worse. Because for me, I'm starting with axiomatic worst possible misery, which is torture to the point of madness. madness for every human being on the planet continuously with no gains at all.
Isn't that so subjective? I don't think.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. I'm claiming it's subjective. You provide me with something that you think is worse. We're going to start somewhere. So that's why. So I don't think you can go on infinitum. You've got to have a starting point. And I'm putting forward one, and I'm suggesting.
I think if you want to have a philosophical argument, you do, but that doesn't make it correct.
The word evil.
What kind of morals, really? Because I think Isaac was challenged with, well, what's your foundation for knowing something's right and wrong? And Isaac was sort of giving his version, and the challenge to him.
What I wanted to do, right, before, was give a comprehensive rundown of the Islamic God and the evils of that Islamic God.
You wanted to fit the Islamic God in evil. He wanted evil before you fit him. That's why he ran away.
No, I think he shifted the burden of proof. He went back to
evil. He said, "What's evil?"
Because the moment some of the Muslims hear, "Oh, there's evil," their first thought is, now we're going to challenge you. How can you consider anything evil? But he hadn't finished his point. So we could definitely ask him, well, what's your foundation for evil?
Yeah,
but he jumped in.
He could have finished his point, but we'll just be rambling on until we asked, because we have a different agenda.
I would have got to that. I would have got to that, but I wanted to make my point to give a comprehensive character rundown.
But you know, no one would listen. That's the thing. No one would actually listen because they're not interested in. You're trying to fit the God into evil.
No, they're not interested in recounting the characteristics of that God because they don't want to, the truth.
Because we don't believe in evil according to your criteria. That's why you want to say, where did you get evil from?
Okay, so you don't think it's evil to?
No. First define evil before you even get to evil.
I'm going to give you one of my definitions of
when you say mine, it becomes subjective.
Well, okay. Well, I'm afraid it's going to be a subjective.
Then we can't have conversations.
Well,
that's fine. I can't have conversation because I have different subjective.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. You're going to hear my subjective definition of what I feel is evil about
it's not objective. It's subjective.
And that is torturing.
Stop talking.
No, it's like saying, "Oh, she's beautiful." No, I don't think she's beautiful.
Okay.
What should we argue about her? Yeah. So should we argue about her beautifulness? No, we'd be like,
okay. Sorry. Unfortunately,
we have to change the topic.
You see, but this is why I'm getting into the specifics about Islam, because you can sidetrack and sort of divert and sort of get into these sort of convoluted philosophical arguments. And I want to deal with the meat and bones of the belief system itself and the language.
Yeah, but that's what we want.
Now, okay, good. So, in that respect, I would have to challenge you on whether you thought it was moral to torture. Please let me finish. To torture a being that you created, you made the brain of. You made the brain of. You know all the thoughts of that creature. You know all the choices of that creature. You know its future actions. You know everything that's going to do because you created it. But if that creature, for some reason, went its own way and decided to do its own thing, not pay homage to you, but, by some form of accident or whatever. Right?
How could it do that?
Right.
Let them finish.
Right. Then to justify that by torturing, by chopping the limbs off of that creature, burning, boiling.
It's not evil.
It's not evil.
Because if I created them, I create evil as well. So to me, that's not evil. It's not evil.
All right. So it doesn't make sense. So torturing.
Torturing, in your definition, my definition, it might not be evil. Because if I created him and I'm torturing him, I think it's good for him.
Yeah. So you would worship an entity that would just torture another.
No. You asked me a question.
What if he said it was like
good for him?
Out of cancer?
Kind of cancer.
What if he said it was like tough love?
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
But why create the creature with cancer in the first place? We're talking about a God here. Right. So why give the creature the cancer in the first place?
Because maybe I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just trying to think of arguments, right?
Sure.
So maybe it was, you know, instructive, a test of, you know, test of.
But he doesn't understand. But he does.
No. But
it means different thing.
you see, but the test. I tell you why the test argument doesn't work. They can't get out of that way because he already knows what the answer's going to be.
I understand, man.
You see,
I understand. If he's omnipotent and omniscient, how can he be all good? I get it.
Exactly. So that won't help them either.
Should I tell you why that helps? I'll tell you why that helps, and then you can say, you know, the reason why he tests us, because he already knows, is because on the day of judgment we can be a proof against ourselves. Because he could have just put people in heaven and hell. People would be like, why are you putting me in hell? I would have been good. They would have argued against God. So he put us on this life so we can be, we can testify to ourselves, okay, I lived on this earth, I was bad, I have nothing to say. But if he just put us in heaven and some people in hell, people would argue like, why are you putting me in hell? What did I do?
Number one,
let's
get to the root of this, because I find this a lot with believers, especially Muslims. I'll ask you the same question. Does God talk to you?
No.
He doesn't talk to you. So that sort of that diatribe that you've just espoused there was just made up by you.
No, he does talk to me personally. Is that what you're saying? So
yes. Does God talk to you
personally? No, because when you say you, then he's like, where'd you get that from? And I say from the Quran, so God talk to you. That's why he's going around with it. But it's not
so
personally me.
okay, can you show us in the Quran where all that explanation is?
What explanation of God?
You said that God tortures you so you can give, essentially save yourself from yourself, basically.
Wait, he tortures us?
And puts you in hell.
Puts you in hell? No.
Right? I mean, it could easily put you in heaven.
We gave you an explanation.
It could easily put you in heaven, even though that he created you to do all the things that he knows that you're not going to do. Yeah. Right? And right. But if you don't do all the things. That's
why he's all merciful as well. He could forgive you.
He knows that you're going to not do, right? Then he'll torture you. Does that make sense to you?
If you put in the context of a test, it does, yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense. Because the test, he already knows what the result's going to be. He's God. He knows the results. He knows the future.
To be honest, even us, in terms of a class setting, I know who's going to pass and who's going to fail. And the first person who fails, should I go and tell him, listen, mate, you're going to fail, so don't study.
Listen, have you known every Muslim over the past 50 years?
No, not every.
Of course you know. No.
God already knows everything.
They've all learned the classroom analogy.
You do not question.
Yeah, but he's using a faulty analogy with a classroom. And they go further with that.
So before we get to
you're talking about the Arabic. You're talking about the Arabic God.
I'm talking about
you're talking about the Arabic God
and your God.
No. You're talking about the Arabic God created 1200, 1300 years ago. Yeah, in the Middle East, in the islands. That is the one that you're talking about.
You're talking about Allah. The Jewish one, they call him Allah.
Listen, you're talking about the Abrahamic gods from the Middle East.
Yes, it's not. It wasn't 1400 years ago.
It was 1300 years ago.
It can only be one God.
No, well, one God for the Arabs, yeah. For the Arabs. For the Arabs.
Everyone. My God and your God.
It was the gods, one of the gods from the Middle East.
No, one God.
It was one of the gods from the Middle East.
It's one God.
The Arabic God.
One God.
It's not
my God and your God.
It's not the Greco-Roman God that the Christians worship. It's not the Hebrew God that
the name is my
Jewish people worship. It's specifically the God that was created 12 to 1300 years ago.
It wasn't created
in the Middle East.
It wasn't created.
Yes, it was.
They knew
by
before.
Arabs.
For you to say that means that's you got ignorance.
Because you know when you
you have to know their position first.